Be another social media that
it's mostly connected to gamers.
Oh, okay. I am not a gamer. I can't get up even past level 1. We are streaming live. We are streaming live, and I need for you guys to do your part. Today, we're not going to have a teacher's pet corner. So start asking your questions, put a Q and write your questions down. Today, we got Dr. Thomas Levy, and I am going to start the record button. Oh, wow. I've got 1 more minute to do this. We are ahead of time. So I'm going to hit for people who love Telegram, we are live on Telegram. So let's get started here. I'm going to hit the record button. And Robert, I'm looking forward to dancing with Dr. Levy. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. As you know, I have shared information with Dr. Levy. Dr. Levy has shared information with us, Dr. Thomas Levy, who is a board certified cardiologist, and also he is bar certified, or I don't know what that would be, the proper terminology would be for that, but he's an MDJD who looks at medicine on both sides. He looks at natural health and the things that you can do to improve your life. Well, just recently we did the road to health, the roadmap to health with Dr. Thomas Levy. That was at the beginning, sometime in February, I think, this year. And then now we are looking at bringing this information at practitioners. So we have to ask the question, why are we going to a doctor who doesn't know the other side of health? You know, perhaps maybe they're allopathically trained, or perhaps maybe they're even functionally trained, but don't look beyond what their training is. We want to empower ourselves and to go to doctors, practitioners, healers of whatever kind, wherever you choose to go, that will absolutely look beyond the allopathic mentality and be able to bring you to the health, the optimal outcomes that you so desire. So how do we do that? How do we do it for ourselves? And then how do we do it where we encourage our practitioners to do the same? And we have Dr. Thomas Levy here, who's going to be a part of both the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit, and he is going to be part of his own training for doctors. It's the optimal treatment for health. And these are the protocols that Dr. Levy talks about and how to do this. And I'm just grateful that he's here to talk about that. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Thomas Levy is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Levy.
Hi, Lily. Good to be back.
It is always good to be back. It's always fun to kind of reconnect with you. And so you have come on the show in the program and have said many times, the synergies between vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, and even hydrocortisone. And for people that want to go to my website to look at his newest workshop that he's going to do with doctors and practitioners, and whether it's functional, holistic, alternative, and how to learn his protocols, it's so important that today we focus on how do we empower ourselves to do the same. So Dr. Levy, what led you to go outside your allopathic training and decide to look beyond what you were trained and go outside the box and find that there were some solutions out there?
Well, I believe I've gone over this in some shows with you in the past, but let
Yes.
me recap here
Yes.
because it is a important question. It's an important question because there are some doctors out there that are just wedded to the mainstream pharmaceutical style of medicine. There are others who aren't, and there are others who, shall we say, are on the borderline. They're legitimately open-minded, but they're not exposing themselves to the right situations. I tell you what, without getting too metaphysical here, I think it is significant, at least because you asked me the question and not anybody else, is I was practicing cardiology in Colorado Springs, Colorado back in, 1993, I believe. And I was literally sitting in my chair in the office with my feet cocked up on the desk. I wasn't seeing a patient at the time. And I'm sort of having an internal conversation with myself. And that internal conversation was pretty straightforward. It's, well, cardiology is a good field. I think I help a lot of people here. I enjoy it reasonably well. But this is not what I should be doing with the rest of my life. I just don't know what it is I should be doing at this point in time. And literally, a couple months later, I met Dr. Hal Huggins. And it was the perfect example of the saying, the expression, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was exactly the situation with me. I don't think I was right for being led in any direction because everything I did with Dr. Huggins was really based on science and clinical expertise. So it wasn't like I was some sort of lemming ready to be ushered off the cliff or ready to drink the cyanide Kool-Aid with Jim Jones in Ghana, but I was ready to explore. And I really didn't know but a smidget, the tiniest amount then that I know now, but I knew enough that I was asking myself questions. I was asking myself questions about where do I go from here? And literally, so a few months later, Dr. Huggins, we met at a alternative energy conference, Tesla Society conference in Colorado Springs. And he said, well, come by the clinic sometime. I want to show you what we're doing there. And Dr. Huggins had a really modern, avant-garde, enormous clinic, large staff, and he would see a handful of patients a day. And these patients were literally from around the world. He had that type of reputation. And they went through a two-week protocol where they were given a lot of nutritional instruction, a lot of instruction on actually physiology, and what different supplements do for different parts of your body and different conditions, very specific information. He did blood work, hair analysis, and a complete, what I call total dental revision. A total dental revision is the removal of all teeth that can be identified as infected. And this, of course, included root canals. And if an implant was infected, the removal of that too. But I don't mean to say that implants per se are not good, not at all. But done correctly, they're an excellent alternative. And the removal of mercury amalgam fillings as well. And so this one day, I think I went there a couple times. I went there and I saw a little old lady in a wheelchair being rolled into the dental operatory. And after a little time went by, I wandered on in and saw what was going on. And I saw enough that early on, this lady wasn't too animated, shall we say. And as the dental work went on, several hours worth of dental work, and I mean extractions and, as I like to say, the type of stuff that'll put a college student in bed for a week or two after, like when they get their wisdom teeth taken out, something along those lines. But she was getting more and more animated, more and more energetic as it went on. And when it finally finished up that day, she told her caregiver that, hey, I'm ready for a really good meal. Let's go out to some great restaurant in Colorado Springs and I'll chew on the side of my mouth that hasn't been worked on today. And I said, and about that time, Dr. Huggins, Hal, walked into the operatory and I said, Hal, what's going on here? Something does not compute. I said, how can this lady be subjected to this battery of dental work and literally get more and more animated and more energetic as time goes on? And Hal pointed to the IV bag. I said, okay, well, I'll bite. Very interesting. What's special about the IV? And he said, it's got 50 grams of vitamin C. Whoa. Well, that just hit me from left field. I just had no idea what was going on. But I certainly, for one person, never deny what my eyes and awareness has witnessed.
Yeah.
And what I witnessed was not reasonably explained by anything other than the fact that this lady was getting energy from somewhere. And it was literally at that point in time that I said, well, you can't turn back. Well, you can, but you should never turn back when the real truth slaps you across the face. And that's what happened there. It was literally at that point in time that I said, I have no idea what's so special about vitamin C, but I'm going to find out. And that began my research with vitamin C. Probably some, 6 or 7 years later, I wrote and published. Well, it took about 4 years, Curing the Incurable, where we looked at all the different diseases, all the different toxin exposures, reviewed the world literature on the impact of vitamin C on all these things. And it was such a incredible mind-numbing experience. It was a labor of love. I didn't drudge away for a moment. It was all exciting. There's different stuff you'd learn every day in PubMed, pearls just lying around in plain sight, ready to be picked up. You didn't even need to pry open an oyster shell to get to them. So, and it was shortly after that I saw that lady with Hal that, as fate would have it, there were circumstances that occurred more or less simultaneously with me meeting Hal that I scaled down my cardiology practice, and I had a significant amount of time on my hands. And so Hal said, why don't you come work with me at the clinic? So I initially took up some time as a consultant. I'd go over the patients with him and I'd review their blood work, and I'd do telephone follow-ups 3 months down the road to see how they did. And shortly after that, I said, the heck with this. And I just dropped my cardiology practice completely and said, I do believe this is the teacher that was sent to me. And I ended up having a lot of time on my hands. In addition to what work I did there, Dr. Huggins was quite generous in the payment he gave me, such that after seeing the cavalcade of incidents and phone calls and notes and letters, and the fact that Hal had a lawyer in Colorado Springs on retainer that he paid, I don't know, something $10,000, $15,000 a month just to be able to pick up the phone or knock off a letter or this, that, or the other. Because human nature being what it is, human nature will always pick on the weak guy. And modern medicine is the strong guy. They're backed by everything. So they can do whatever they want and you say, I don't like this, they effectively say, well, screw you. Whereas when you're not doing the mainstream, you're susceptible and you need more protection because you just don't have the blind backing of the entire medical industry.
Mhm.
So really on that basis alone, I took the LSAT test, got a good enough score, applied to Denver Law School, got into there, and began what I call my 90,000 mile, $90,000 program. 90,000 miles, $90,000, because I commuted for 3 years back and forth between Colorado Springs and Denver, about a 60-mile commute, something along those lines, and then got my law degree. And I haven't personally practiced medicine since, although there's been an enormous amount of, shall I say, arm's length medicine with many practitioners around the world who write me, ask me questions. How would you approach this? Blah, blah, blah. And I say, fine. I said, why don't you consider doing this? And the only thing I request of you is that you give me the feedback one way or another. Tell me if it's good, bad, worked, didn't work, worked a little bit, etc. And I think anybody who's objective would understand that you don't need to always witness stuff personally to properly verify or invalidate, as the case may be, different approaches that you want to take. So that pretty much brought me to where I am now. Dr. Huggins passed about 9 years ago now. And I know he would have loved to see some of the stuff that's going on now and some of the things that I've been doing and exploring with other people. Hal had an extremely curious mind. He never ruled anything out. He always engaged any concept and analyzed it. And, other than just his friendship too, I really miss the fact that we could sit down and talk about these things in great detail, because he introduced concepts to me that weren't anywhere else. When I first went there too, I started developing high blood pressure just about the time all this happened. And I knew without analyzing it that it wasn't good to have mercury in your mouth. So I went and saw Hal and said, hey, I think I need to get the mercury out. And he said, and he looked at the x-ray and he said, well, you have a root canal too. I said, yeah. He said, well, the root canal's got to come out too. I said, what? I got to get one of my teeth amputated? And then Hal, in his low-key sarcastic manner, he just said, only if you want to get well, Tom. And so that again also led into my investigation on dental infections, and probably with the culmination in the most recent book, aside from Rapid Virus Recovery, which is Hidden Epidemic, where we see not only are root canals bad for you, but there's the widespread pandemic of chronically abscessed and completely pain-free teeth. And so that's where we are today with the last 2.5 years. Of course, the pandemic has dictated, at least to people who are not just towing the party line, shall we say, but are interested in really helping their patients as best as possible. We've developed a lot of new approaches and new things. And I got to say this early on, you said, I think, referring to what I do and people like me as alternative medicine, I would have to say, no, we're not alternative medicine. We are the real medicine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's basically pharmaceutical-based medicine versus genuine medicine, which is the whole concept of orthomolecular that Dr. Linus Pauling set out some 50 years ago or so, where ortho, correct, molecular molecule. So orthomolecular is basically the practice of using the right molecule, using the right agent for a given situation, which virtually always involves a deficiency of a natural agent. Nobody develops a deficiency of aspirin or Tylenol or penicillin or chemotherapy. No such thing exists. But all that does is, if it's a really good, shall we say, pharmaceutical agent, it might help alleviate a symptom, but it's never designed to stop the underlying pathology or, God forbid, even reverse it, which is quite possible in many patients in many conditions using a good orthomolecular approach to medicine.
You know, every time, and I know you've shared this story before, but I want to put this video in a place where the people that are looking at the I Am the Solution that may have never heard from you, to hear from you again. But we have lots of videos with Dr. Thomas Levy, who's been coming into the classroom and teaching us. And so you can check them out on BitChute. Most of his videos go to BitChute because we try to keep it, you know, I am strike free. So we put all the videos up on BitChute and Odyssey if they don't qualify to stay on Facebook and YouTube. But just know that we've had these conversations about, you know, his protocols, but now we have two ways. You know, there's going to be three different formats. So the first one we did Roadmap to Health. Roadmap to Health, you can find that in my do-it-yourself. So if you go to workshops, you can find Dr. Thomas Levy's, Roadmap to Health. And this is for someone like me and you, a layperson. We did have practitioners attend too, but for a layperson to kind of like maneuver their system of like learn how to become your own MD. And that's for a medical detective. And so today we thought, let's talk about, you know, the different ways that we can become our medical detective. The second thing that I want to share that Dr. Thomas Levy is going to be in, he's going to be a speaker at the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. So he'll be speaking at this event, and he's going to be sharing about the synergies between vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, and mold, because mold has become a big issue in our lives right now. And we're seeing some, and he was a speaker, not just once, twice in our group that did the MQ detox experience. So that's the second thing, that there's another place where you can find him, because we recorded all the videos for MQ detox. So he's sharing all his information there. And the third is that we have created an event called the Optimal Treatment for Disease, and it's of disease for the protocols of disease. So practitioners can attend this. And so how can you become empowered to say to your practitioner, whether he's a doctor, chiropractor, naturopath, whatever, would you be willing to go and attend this? It's virtual, and you can attend that. Is on February 26th. So with all that in mind, what we want to discuss today, and Dr. Levy, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you want us to empower us so that we know how to take the steps. Like if I were, if you didn't have a medical degree and you started learning about natural ways or the true health, as you had mentioned before, that you know, there was only natural medicine before allopathic medicine took over, without getting political or anything to that effect, or blame or any of that. How can we do the research that we need? How do we get empowered to feel strong enough? Because we've been taught that medical doctors or, doctors know what's best for us, when they may not even know what's best for them. So can you share about how we can empower ourselves to do our own research and be able to make some good decisions while co-learning with our doctors?
Well, what you had mentioned earlier is about offering a program like this. I had perceived, we'll find out in February, that there's an increasing demand whenever I talk at conferences, Zoom lectures around the world, locally and afar. I repeatedly, ultimately have several docs and sometimes motivated lay people say, well, where can I learn all this stuff? Where can I learn how to do all this stuff? And on the one hand, most of what I talk about is pretty straightforward conceptually and pretty easy to implement. However, and this is not a criticism, this is just an observation of the way things are, people in the healthcare communities, doctors, chiropractors, DO, etc., as a group, they're extremely reluctant to do anything on their own that's brand new, that's not being done on a regular basis by their peers. And so in this regard, I think, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but we'll certainly offer people a certificate to validate that they attended this, and be able to give them backup with some written protocols from which a practitioner can vary depending on the practitioner, but just a given guideline. But it's also important to know, because lots of doctors out there, lots of healthcare providers, they go to conferences and it's mostly important for them that they get CME credit, continuing medical education credit. Well, I need to make it clear at this point in time, what I'm talking about is new, and no continuing medical education group is going to stamp their approval on giving credits for something that's not locked in solid on the mainstream. So we'll give you the validation of a certificate to show that you attended it. And I still welcome emails from such individuals and around the world. And while I can't manage a particular patient with you point to point, any physician that has gone through the program that is running across a patient where they might want some clarifications as to this particular patient has X, Y, and Z. Is there any way you might slightly modify the protocol to better deal with their particular condition? Because, and we've talked about this before, Lily, is that in a nutshell, all disease is oxidation where you don't want it. Too much oxidation, too many biomolecules that have lost electrons. And the effective treatment to that is antioxidants like vitamin C, but not limited to vitamin C, that can bring electrons back. And while that seems incredibly simple, almost simplistic to say all disease is too much new oxidation and not enough ongoing antioxidation. In other words, as every day goes by, you push the oxidation reduction balance more and more and more away from reduction and toward oxidation. And the fact that, and we've discussed this before too, we see in the literature where they examine it, every disease has increased oxidative stress. The blood tests show increased oxidative stress. And a lot of these articles in the literature say, well, increased oxidative stress causes this disease. That's not really true. It's close to being true, but it's not true because, and this is the most important point to keep in trying to understand disease and what you're doing to try to slow, stop, or reverse the disease, is that disease is, oxidative stress is disease. In other words, it's the state of oxidation of X number of biomolecules in different sites and different concentrations for different durations. It's that whole array of oxidized biomolecules, RNA, DNA, enzymes, sugars, proteins, fats. When a biomolecule gets oxidized, loses one or more electrons, it becomes either substantially decreased in biological activity, or it loses that biological activity completely. And it's just like a blank key in a lock that's not going to help you at all. Mm-hmm. And the more you get of biomolecules that don't work in a unique pattern, the more you get of that particular medical condition, which is characterized by that pattern. And the toxins that come in that cause all of this, we have hundreds of thousands, maybe more toxins and they all poison the body, and they all do it by the same mechanism. They oxidize biomolecules, but they have different impact because each toxin has a different chemical structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the unique chemical structure of the toxin that determines where it can go, where it concentrates, what biomolecules it has access to, and what biomolecules it'll never reach. And that's what determines that unique oxidative pattern that determines the disease, which is also why vitamin C has been shown very elegantly to neutralize the toxicity of any known toxin exposure. I mean, literally, if you catch somebody who's poisoned by some mechanism, some toxin, some free radical, if you catch that person at least more than a half an hour away from dying, you're going to salvage it. Now, I mean, if you get somebody who's taking their last breaths, vitamin C is probably not going to do it. But what does vitamin C do? It just, in large amounts, it goes in and it starts reversing that oxidation, turning on enzymes that have been turned off, causing biomolecules to start doing their normal functions, pulling nutrients into the cell, taking toxins out of the cell. All of that starts to get kicked up in high gear when you start giving large enough doses of vitamin C to neutralize the toxin exposure. So that's pretty much the basis upon which, and of course, there's a lot more detail on the treatment side of what you need to keep in mind. What is disease? Disease ultimately is, do I have a normal concentration of reduced active vitamin C inside my cell?
Mm-hmm.
And if a cell has a normal level of vitamin C in it, it's a normal cell, it can't be infected, and it can only contribute to health. So that's the goal, and that's all the different permutations of what we talk about is, does it end up maximizing vitamin C concentration inside the cell? And let's say a practitioner is already doing something that he or she is having a good clinical success with. I would submit to you that it's clinical success because it is ultimately resulting in this increased concentration of vitamin C inside the cell, whether they realize it or not.
So as a layperson, and I always say, choose your doctors well. And if your doctors don't look healthy and they can't take care of themselves, how are they going to take care of you? And so that's my first thing. So if as a layperson, and if I want somebody to attend your optimal treatment of disease protocols, the synergies between vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, and hydrocortisone, and we're also going to talk about viruses and how to deal with that protocol as well. And but we're not going to talk about that today. How would you advise someone like me to come to someone like you, maybe that doesn't have the other side, the natural side, the real side of medicine? How do you approach somebody like that and say, I really would like for you to attend this without, because a lot of people are fearful of offending their doctors, almost like they have this, like their doctors put in a pedestal as if everything they say is infallible. And so how would you advise someone to approach and invite them to attend your optimal treatment of disease on February 26th, which is a virtual, anyone around the world can attend?
Well, let me start by saying, and I don't mean to be snarky or anything like that, but if somebody has a mainstream doctor that they know is not interested in anything that they're going to show them or bring to their attention, and they have no intention at all of trying to find another doctor, there's really no point in coming to my presentation. Now, there's a lot of people, intelligently so, that have mainstream doctors, and they're not particularly happy with the results that they're getting, or the fact that they never really get a question answered, or for that matter, nearly all of the mainstream doctors aren't aware of this information that I'll be talking about. Not that it's incredibly technical or difficult material, it's just that once regular doctors finish their training, This may sound harsh, but they really don't want to think anymore. They have no interest at all. They want to plug you into a protocol. You have this symptom, you have that symptom, you have this piece of blood work, you have that piece of blood work. Therefore, throw it all into the computer. Actually, a computer would do a better job than the doctor's head in this case, and tell us what pharmaceutical drug we need to prescribe. And that is not a cynical presentation of what modern medicine is. And the quicker they can do it, the better. So if they can bring you in and have you walking out 5 minutes later, they're happy. Okay, they've done the office visit, charged the maximum charge, got you on several prescriptions, and you're in every way perfectly treated by quote unquote modern medicine. On the other hand, what I have to say will be or should be welcomed with open arms to a lot of non-mainstream integrative medical practitioners, alternative, if you want to use that word, because they are active medical explorers. Just the opposite of the mainstream medical practitioner. Most integrative physicians, complementary physicians, naturopaths, chiropractors, DOs, MDs that are aware of orthomolecular concepts, they're very interested in learning something every day. I mean, they literally go to conferences trying to find out how they can expand, how they can better take care of their patients. And again, modern medicine, quote unquote, they go to conferences to hear about modifications on pharmaceutical agents. They learn nothing and are not interested in learning anything about the basic underlying pathophysiology that is the reason for all disease. So if you've got a regular doctor that, hey, you wouldn't be unhappy jettisoning that one and going to another one, please come. And if you're a physician who's does their due diligence and looking at the work that I've done and says, well, maybe Dr. Levy has something to offer, that's fine. And if you're the patient, motivated, of course, to learn this and say, wow, that makes sense, and I'm going to bring this body of information to the person that I believe is my open-minded integrative physician, that's the ideal. I mean, I want to see physicians pick up the ball and run with this, because not considered to be arrogant at all. I mean, this is medicine that works. This is medicine that restores cells to normalcy. It just doesn't anesthetize symptoms and leave the disease underneath it, smoldering and worsening. Everything I talk about is designed to at least slow a chronic disease process, and in many cases, stop the chronic disease process, and in even other cases, reverse disease processes. And we're talking about chronic medical diseases that are generally considered absolutely not only incurable by modern medicine, but really unable to slow the disease process such that they really truly believe that the only thing they have to offer, and the only thing they're interested in offering, is pills to make you feel better, less pain, less dizziness, less fatigue, better sleep, blah, blah, blah. And I think you had somebody in the past that asked, well, I've read several of Dr. Levy's books and they're wonderful.
Yes.
But do you think the conference that he's talking about will be too sophisticated for me? And the answer is, if you read 2 of my books and you enjoyed them and you appreciated even 50% of them, much less nearly all of it, by all means come, because I don't get overly technical with just about anything that I talk about. I've always felt that no matter how sophisticated a concept is, if you can't express it in simple terms, you really don't understand it yourself. So I think anybody who has even a reasonable appreciation, looking at the articles that I've written and the books that I've written, if they say, oh, those make a lot of sense, I understand nearly all of it, you're still perfect for this conference, even though we're going to give the doctors as much specific information as possible. It still is something where just about everybody can jump on board.
Yeah, and that's I'm excited about that. So that's February 26th. That's a virtual, and that's 2023. That's a virtual workshop or conference for doctors, practitioners, whether they're integrative, functional, holistic, and everybody who registers before the early registration, which I say register now and get it over with, so that you can not only learn the protocols, but you can also you get your certification. You'll get 5 of Dr. Levy's books: Rapid Virus Recovery, Primal Panacea, Death by Calcium, Magnesium Reversing Disease, and Hidden Epidemic. These are all his latest ebooks that he has written. And so everybody who attends this workshop, which we're really excited, we've got practitioners from all over the world at this point joining. I think the furthest right now is Germany, and I'm really excited about that. California, and I'm trying to remember others as well. But I would say to also piggyback with what Dr. Levy has said, when it comes to inviting your practitioner, all you can do is maybe leave them a flyer, make a copy of the flyer, send them the link, leave a copy of the link on their website, or send them the copy of the link. And you can go to whenyounneedafriend.com. While you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, please register, please subscribe to the channel. That way you know who's going to be in the classroom. There are so many different things that you can look at, whether it's your my social media, like and follow, Instagram, also BitChute, Odyssey, Facebook, YouTube. Now we're in Telegram. And if you want a link to Telegram because you want to watch the show on Telegram, then all you have to do is send me a text at 407-373-5959, and I will send you the link so that you can join our Telegram channel. And so while you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, when you click there, you'll get a pop-up, and there's going to be 2 things you're going to see, and both Dr. Levy is going to be in there. One of them is going to be the I Am the Solution. That is January 21, 2023. That's in person, and Dr. Levy is going to give a talk about the synergies between vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, and mold, and how you can reduce mold in your body with these 2 modalities. So I would call it a modality, but they're natural forms of getting better. And so that's number 1. So that one will pop up. And the second thing that will pop up would be the optimized treatment of disease. And that's the synergies of not only vitamin C and hydrogen peroxide, but also hydrocortisone. And he goes into details about the current virus and how to work with that and reverse it, especially people that are still feeling exhausted after months and years after feeling sick. And so Dr. Levy is going to address that. So you can go to those. And if you want to, if you say, you know what, I don't want to do the course, I don't need a certification, I would like to just go to Roadmap to Health. All you have to do is, while you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, find workshops and then scroll down to Roadmap to Health. And that's another way that you can get the books. And that's already been recorded, and it's not a live session, so the questions have already been asked. But if you join the live session, then you can ask questions there. So while you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, you can go to Shop Now bag, and you can check out all the Lilly approved items, the products that I just absolutely love from head to toe. Those are all Lilly approved. And the last way that you can become a supporter in the classroom is, of course, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, is to be able to give, whether it's $1 or $1,000, to help support growth of the classroom. So everything you do to support the classroom does help us grow. And so I want to make sure that you are aware that even by, texting or tagging or liking or following, that's another way that you can help the classroom grow. Today we have Dr. Thomas Levy, MDJD. You can find him at Peak Energy. That's PEAK Energy, not PEEK Energy. So it's peak as in the top, and that's why we're doing the summit, and that's why Dr. Thomas Levy is part of the summit. But you can go to peakenergy.com and learn more about, we're going to get this new event on his website. We need to get that on his website, but you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and you can enroll and register there. There's so many different ways that we can take our health back. So going back to what Dr. Levy was talking about, sending a link to these events to your doctors, or you choosing, and we have discount right now. There's a discount. It's an early registration discount for both the I Am the Solution and the optimal treatment of disease with Dr. Thomas Levy. So you can check out when the registration ends, but I would just do it now and secure your seat, secure that you have the lower price. And so today, Dr. Levy, we're talking about empowering us. And did you like the idea of just sending a link to the practitioners so that you can invite them to these events?
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent idea. I think a majority of the physicians in the integrative community, or at least aware of by name, and most of them have, I believe, a favorable impression. So really just a patient or an individual who has the link and wants to offer it to his or her doc, I think that'd be a good idea. That's not very intimidating or threatening on the part of you being the patient and them being the caregiver, to say, well, I've been impressed with this, and if you haven't heard of Dr. Levy, you might want to take a look at this. But if you have heard of Dr. Levy, he's finally taking the time to put together a lot of the things that he's been lecturing about over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I'm excited that you've chosen me to do this with you. I am thrilled to do that. And I mean, from the moment I met Dr. Levy, I knew that there were certain things that were very unique that I had never heard before. Nebulizing hydrogen peroxide, that was huge for me because, growing up asthmatic and then in my adulthood, I lived on the nebulizer, but it wasn't hydrogen peroxide. And so these are options that we can take. And for example, when we're talking about January 21st, the I Am the Solution workshop, the Natural Health Summit, when we're talking about that, this is for people that want to take their health back. And so I talk about becoming a medical detective, MD. An MD, be your own MD, a medical detective. And when you were in practice, were you offended at all when a patient came to you and said, I really don't think this medication is working. I was doing research and this is the information I have. Do you mind if I send you the information? Would you have been offended by that?
No, not at all. I got to say that didn't happen very often. Because there's, at least in cardiology, as of when I stopped practicing 25 years ago, there's a fairly limited number of commonly prescribed agents, and all the side effects, et cetera, are well established, managing a lot of high blood pressure, et cetera. So, yeah, but anytime anybody, well, put it this way. I'm not going to say I wanted to sit there and chat with the patient all day long, but all of my patients knew that there was no problem at all asking me whatever question came to mind. I wasn't there to just rush them through the office as quickly as possible, not at all. Now, on the other hand, when I was an intern at Charity Hospital in New Orleans, whoa, you had long lines of patients. Yeah, that was a different story. You really had to protect your time as much as possible. But no, in private practice, I never scheduled people such that there wouldn't be time for them to ask the questions.
I wish that were true today, Dr. Levy. 25 years ago, perhaps, but now, a doctor will spend 7 minutes with us. That's why we need to educate ourselves. Just recently, I met someone, that very, very nice person, and they had been sitting, waiting for someone to come. They were waiting on someone, and while they were waiting, they were playing games. They were playing, on the computer, on the phone, and they were playing games to distract, to kind of like spend the time. But what I encouraged that person after our conversation is to stop playing the games and start doing the things like educating. What are some of the places that you recommend that they can go to, like PubMed.gov, or what are other places other than peakenergy.com that people can really truly educate themselves and empower themselves to make different choices that will help reverse their health outcomes?
Well, these days it's so easy to get information. Your main concern is filtering through all of it.
Yes.
Okay, so but I want to say before somebody says, oh, well, the internet's got so many lies and misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be true because it's a source of information from a lot of people, including many physicians. And I'm going to tell you, lots of medical articles and lots of medical textbooks. If you don't want to say they lie, you want to at least say they're putting forth mistruths and misinformation. Ultimately, and this frustrates some people because some people, and I sympathize with this, they don't want to spend a lot of time. They went to school. They don't want to spend all their time thinking on something else. But ultimately, if you have a certain medical condition, you're well advised to go onto Yahoo, Google, any of these web browsers, type in a question, and see the answers that you get. Bear in mind, and this is where the sifting process comes, you need to see what responses come in most commonly. You need to see whether that response is coming from a mainstream medical institution like MayoClinic.com or a holistic medicine website, and you'll see a completely different perspective there. But there is no clear-cut, well-demarcated pathway for anybody to take. As you said, medical detective, that's the perfect way to summarize it. And however frustrating it might be, it's only you, the patient, that suffers if you say, that's too much for me. I'm just going to pick a doctor and let him or her do.
Tell me what to do.
What to tell me what I need to do. And just throw yourself on the table like a piece of meat. Well, let me tell you, 19 times out of 20, that's not going to serve you very well, especially if you have a complex medical condition. And not just a cut on your arm that needs to be stitched up.
Well, I truly appreciate your willingness to teach. Once again, we have the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. That's on January 21st. Dr. Levy is going to be speaking at that event. He'll be there in person. You can come meet him. To get your seats, get your tickets before December 31st so that you can get early registration pricing. On February 26th, Dr. Levy is doing a workshop for practitioners. And if you feel that you can understand that level, you're welcome to join us. You will have access to all the video recordings as well and the protocols so that you can be your own MD, to be your own advocate. You can be, take care of yourself because nobody's going to care more about you than you. And so just make sure you do that. And then also the last thing is that if you want to do it now, you can go to the website. You can go to the website, go to the workshop, and then there's the last workshop that he did, which was Roadmap to Health. And so just go check it out. Be your own advocate. Learn everything that you can, so that when a doctor says something to you, you can say, oh, I've heard about that. You can have a nice conversation with them. And if your doctor gets upset, at that point, you fire your doctor. and you start taking your health and your life back. Dr. Levy, it's always a pleasure to have you. Today, we're not going to do the Teacher's Pet Corner, but if you guys have any questions, you always can reach out to Dr. Thomas Levy, or you can reach out to me and continue being your own health advocate. Thank you so much for empowering all of us, Dr. Levy, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Lily. Always enjoy being with you.
Absolutely. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Thomas Levy wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Before we go, I just saw a comment that was made by Myrna. Hey, Myrna, I'm so glad that you're watching today. And Gert and all of you that are watching hidden, I welcome you. Myrna says that my dentist, Dr. Nugent, met Dr. Levy in Las Vegas recently at a Redefining Medicine conference. Isn't that cool? What a small world. We're all so connected. What a small world. How beautiful is that? Thank you, Myrna, for letting us know. And there's Lucy said that I just got the book, Curing the Incurable. So excited to start reading. Can't believe I stumbled upon this live stream. Isn't that cool? So you are making a difference, Dr. Levy, and I'm so glad that I am somewhere along just a small little smidgen part of this. And so I want to encourage all of you to share this information, go to the website, share the links with your doctors, share the links with your friends, the people that you love, and make a decision to take your health back. Thank you again, Dr. Levy. You can find him at peakenergy.com. And you can also find him on the Lillian McDermott radio show and so many other places too. I'm just one of many of his people that just absolutely adore him.
You're definitely more than a smidgen, Lily.
Well, I appreciate you. So thank you everybody for watching. And I look forward to, if you have any questions about the events, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.